It's GameCube Index, and this week I only had to change my underpants 1,000 times. By the time this week's release first came out in 2001, the survival horror franchise Resident Evil was already well established, having first launched on the PS1 in 1996. Some sequels, Resident Evil 2, 3 Nemesis, and Code Veronica followed suit in the next few years before Capcom and Nintendo decided to strike an exclusive deal for the newest console, the Nintendo GameCube. As mentioned before, Resident Evil is a survival horror game, which offers up two similar yet different storylines. Set in 1998 in the fictional Raccoon City, a series of bizarre murders have caused the local police to bring in their Special Tactics and Rescue Service, or STARS teams, to investigate. Bravo Team gets lost while investigating, and the story then follows Alpha Team as they uncover the mystery and hunt for their teammates. From there, players can choose to play as one of two different characters, Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. There are pros and cons to who you choose to play through the game as, with Chris being able to take and deal more damage, as well as stuff stun grenades in a zombie's mouth and shoot it to detonate. Jill, on the other hand, can use a taser as well as carry more items at once and use a lockpick. Nintendo has long been criticized for an apparent lack of third-party developer support for their consoles, and so in an effort to avoid that criticism with the GameCube, they reached out to Capcom to strike a multi-title exclusivity deal to help support their new platform. This came at a great time, as Shinji Mikami, the director and designer of the original Resident Evil game, felt as though the title had not aged well and was tough for new players to appreciate. After seeing and being impressed by the GameCube hardware, Mikami expressed interest in using the platform to bring Resident Evil closer to his original intent. Development started in early 2001 by only 4 programmers, and it was initially slow going. As one of the first titles Capcom developed for the GameCube, they needed to extensively study the console's performance as well as determine a graphical choice for the game. They chose to use 3D models over pre-rendered backgrounds, as they did with the original PS1 release. However, this time around, the camera offers much more dynamic angles for the player to view their character from. The team decided to create entirely new character models and auditioned new actors for motion capture as well as voice actors to perform the game's dialogue. This was done in addition to reworking the game's script, as well as adding in a new subplot and an entirely new character. There were a number of changes made to the core gameplay as well, including expanding the inventory slots by removing certain key items from the inventory count, as well as introducing defense items, allowing zombies to come back to life, and a new optional control scheme. At one point, the team even considered making all of the enemies invisible, which thankfully was an idea that never came to fruition. Mikami and friends managed to pull it off. The resulting remake stayed true to the form of the series so far and brought in some great improvements to the Resident Evil formula. While sometimes it does feel as though the jump scares are kind of cheap, it's hard to be upset. The cinematics look gorgeous, and while in 2016 the movement controls feel dated, at the time they made sense. The atmosphere lends itself incredibly well to the genre, permanently sticking the hairs on the back of your neck straight up. Within the first 20 minutes, there's really only around 2 zombies, but the entire time I was tense in anticipation. This was actually the first Resident Evil game I ever played just now for GameCube Index in the year 2016, and I enjoyed it way more than I thought that I would. I generally tend to shy away from horror games as I get frightened easily, which explains why I haven't played the series before, but I played this in my basement office alone with the lights off, and I loved it. It's easy to see why this remake has long been regarded as a modern masterpiece in many ways, from the impressive graphics to the still solid gameplay. Resident Evil remained a GameCube exclusive, and it was ported to the Wii with motion controls in 2008, and it was remastered in HD as Resident Evil HD Remaster for PC, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One in 2015. As critically well received as this title was upon its original release, sales were less than expected, and Resident Evil is directly responsible for the series' turn away from the survival horror genre and towards more of an action series. What's perhaps most impressive is that, in all, development for the GameCube entry was completed in a year and 2 months, with the last couple of months requiring programmers to work every day without a day off in order to get the game shipped. And as terrible and very real as Game Crunch is, their work paid off, and Resident Evil is still looked back upon with fondness. That is it for this week's episode of GameCube Index. If you enjoy the videos every week, consider backing us on Patreon. Even $1 a month will do a lot to support the project and help improve the experience. It's entirely up to you. Either way, please continue to show your support by subscribing, sharing, following along on Twitter at GCNdex and at GCNdex.com. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in next time when we ask, what's the big idea, and Donald Duck going quackers.